I know. You're probably saying to yourself, Post-it notes? That's what your video is going to be about? And I say yes. This video is going to be, obviously, as you can tell, about extreme Post-it notes. Now these Post-it notes claim to be better in every way, shape, and form compared to regular Post-it notes. So in today's video, what we're going to do is put these Post-it notes to the test and see how they stack up against regular Post-it notes. So what exactly makes these Post-it notes extreme? As you can see right there on the box, it says that it sticks in tough conditions. So I'm just going to open these up, which I've already opened them and I already know how they feel. But just so that you can see it, first thing I notice is that the texture on these Post-it notes, you can see there, it has a wax papery type of texture, which is what I assume is going to make it so durable whenever it gets wet. But also, whenever you peel one off, you can tell that it has a more adhesive on the Post-it note, so that should help it stick a little bit better. But with this kind of a wax paper type of stuff, the first thing that I want to test is I want to see if you write on this with a Sharpie and then dunk it in water. I want to know if the ink will run, because that's going to be your biggest problem if you write something down and then it gets wet, is that the ink's going to run. So that's going to be our first test. Okay, so for our first test, I've taken both the extreme Post-it note and the regular Post-it note, and I've wrote an important message on them. And then we're just gonna dunk these in water and see how they hold up. All right, as you can see, I have a 5-gallon bucket of water, and I have both of our Post-it notes that have our special message on them. I'm just gonna dip them in the water and see how the ink holds up, see if it smears. Well, the ink doesn't smear on either one of them, but you can tell that the extreme Post-it note is going to hold up way better to getting wet, where it does have that wax type of paper. The glue is not sticky on either one of them, but the regular Post-it note is way more flimsy, and it will easily tear way easier than the extreme Post-it note, which is still extremely strong, although it will rip if you pinch it real hard, it'll rip. So far the extreme Post-it note shows that it has proved that it is way stronger than a regular Post-it note. Now let's move on to our next test. Alright, so for this next test, I'm just going to take this 2x4 and we're going to stick our Post-it notes to it, and then I'm going to dip it inside of this bucket and see if the Post-it notes hold on, see how they react. Because if the extreme Post-it notes are so much more extreme than a regular Post-it note, then in theory the regular Post-it note should not be able to stick to something underwater, and the extreme one should be able to. So I'm going to dip it in first time, we'll say 10 seconds, see if it holds on. Alright, it's been 10 seconds. Let's pull it out. Okay, both the Post-it notes are still stuck to the board. And you can see, or you might be able to hear, the regular Post-it note it's still a little bit sticky, because the back side of the paper is still dry, so the water didn't have enough time to soak through it. So, and of course the extreme Post-it note, same thing. The wood is even dry behind where the glue was on the extreme Post-it note. So now we'll go to the other end of the board, and now I'm going to leave it in there for probably 20 minutes. I'll leave it in there and see what happens. Here we go. Alright, we'll come back in 20 minutes. Alright, it's been about 20 minutes. This has been submerged in the bucket. let's pull this out, see what we got. Okay. Both of them are still attached to the 2x4. The regular Post-it note didn't really, I think it might have just been still attached just from the water tension or whatever, just being a wet piece of paper on wood. But let's test out the Extreme Post-it note. I could feel it still had a little bit of tension on it from the glue, but still not a whole lot. And of course, the regular Post-it note, if I can get it up here, is obviously, you know, brittle and just rips real easy. Whereas the Extreme Post-it note, even after 20 minutes, is still extremely, well, after you rip it, it's not strong, but where it's that wax paper, you can see that it's still extremely strong, even after being soaked in water, as you would expect. So now let's see how well they stick to bricks. All right, I know I said that we were gonna test it on brick, but I got just a random idea. Whenever I was sticking these Post-it notes on, I was sticking them on like this, and then dipping them in and then pulling them back out with the glue strip at the top. So as I was pulling them out, the water was just kind of weighing it down, and the glue was up at the top. So if I put them on upside down, then whenever I dip them in, and then whenever I go to pull them back out, the water will kind of peel the Post-it note off if the glue doesn't stick that good. So that's what we're gonna do and see if that makes a difference. So let's get our Post-it notes here. Put them on upside down this time. All right. I'll stick them in for 10 seconds, just like the other ones, or just like the first test. That didn't have any effect at all. Maybe if I pull it out really fast. That just knocked them both off. Okay. Maybe that was a dumb idea. Let's move on to the brick. All right, now let's test to see how they stick to brick. Oh, well, the normal Post-it note doesn't look like it's gonna stick to brick at all. Let's see if the Extreme one will. Okay, the Extreme one sticks to it. Maybe, let's try to give it the best chance possible here. Maybe you just gotta massage it in. Okay, now it seems like it's a little bit stuck. All right, now let's dip it in water and see if they hold on. Well, as you can see, the regular Post-it note fell off, and the Extreme Post-it note is still on. So, just like the box says, the Extreme Post-it notes do stick to brick, and the original Post-it notes kind of stick if you massage them on a little bit, but if they get wet, they're gonna fall off. So the Extreme Post-it notes are better in this case. All right, so now that we've tested our Post-it notes in water, which would simulate like rain or like a thunderstorm, now what we're gonna do is I'm going to take this leaf blower, and this leaf blower is gonna simulate, obviously, wind. So we're gonna see, I'm gonna stick these Post-it notes onto this 2x4, and then I'm gonna try to blow them off with the leaf blower, and that's gonna simulate like a thunderstorm, maybe a tornado, maybe like a hurricane. I don't know how fast the wind comes out of the leaf blower, but I'm going to assume that it's probably hurricane speed, maybe like a really strong thunderstorm. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna take 2 Post-it notes from each one, the original Post-it notes and the Extreme Post-it notes, and see how they hold up to wind. Because if you're using Extreme Post-it notes, obviously you want your notes to be safe in a tornado or a hurricane. All right. Now let's see how they hold up. Well, that was actually very, very impressive. You could see that the original Post-it notes just blew away instantly, pretty much. And the extreme Post-it notes only blew away whenever I had the nozzle almost right on top of them. But if I would have held it back a good distance, maybe like a foot or so, they probably would have held on for probably forever. So that is very, very impressive. All right, so since that last test was so impressive, I'm gonna do that again, except for I wanna hold the leaf blower a little bit farther back and see how long it takes for them to actually blow off. Because I did kind of at the end put the leaf blower super close to them and they blew off. So I just want to see how long it takes them to blow off with the leaf blower farther away. All right, let's see how they hold up. All right, so as you can see, that was really impressive. And if you look on this one, the paper, the Post-it note itself is actually ripping from the wind before the glue was even gonna give up. And it doesn't even look like they're starting to peel up at all. And they're still stuck. So if you wanna write notes and you want them to survive a hurricane or a tornado, you need Post-it notes Extreme and they will hold up. Now let's move on to our last test. All right, I know I said that this was the last test, but I lied. This is the second to last test. And what we're gonna do is the exact same thing with the leaf blower, just this time on brick, since we did it on wood, just to make it fair, since we did the water test with wood and brick, so we'll do this one with wood and brick. Even though I'm pretty sure we all know how this is gonna turn out, since the regular Post-it notes barely even stick to brick as it is. Oh wow. That's really not a good sign. Maybe like last time, if I massage it in, it'll work. Alright, I think that's about as good as we're gonna get from the regular Post-it notes. Let's see what happens. Well, they both did blow off, but the regular Post-it note, as you saw, as soon as the slightest amount of wind hit it, it just blew right away. But then the extreme Post-it note really held on for quite a while. Although, if you are going to write a note on an extreme Post-it note and you want it to live through a windstorm like a tornado or a hurricane, don't stick your note onto brick. Stick it onto wood and then it will survive. Now let's move on to our final test. All right, so for the last test, I have the extreme Post-it notes and the regular Post-it notes with the special message on them. And what I'm gonna do is we're just gonna go outside into my backyard and just stick these on several different surfaces like the siding, the window, maybe the side of the wood deck, just different surfaces, and I'm just gonna leave them outside so that way they get to experience all the elements, and we'll leave them out there for about 4 or 5 days and just see how they hold up. All right, so the first place I'm gonna stick these is just out here on this outside window. Right there. Right there. We'll see how they hold up. Next place I'm gonna stick them is right here on the siding, right beside the window, as you can see. We'll put 2 right here on the deck. Then the last 2 we'll stick right here on this plastic fence. All right, that's it. We'll come back in about 4 or 5 days and see how they hold up. Alright guys, it has been a full 7 days since we put the Post-it notes outside on the glass, the siding, the deck, and on the plastic fence. Now let's go out there and see how they hold up. Alright, so our first stop is going to be the ones right here on the siding. And as you can see, they're both a little bit curled, but the ink isn't smeared or anything. They're both still in relatively good condition. Same thing for the glass. Both of them are still here. The ink isn't smeared on either one. And now over here at the deck, you can see that neither one of them are here, and I guess they both blew away. So neither one of them will stick very good to wood for long periods of time. And then lastly, over here on the fence, same story. They're both still here, no smeared ink. And it looks like they both held up very well. So, are the Extreme Post-it notes worth it? Well, the answer is possibly. The fact is that for the most part, unless you're in an extremely windy environment, like I showed with the leaf blower, unless you're in a hurricane and you want a Post-it note to stick during a hurricane, then a regular Post-it note will pretty much do everything that an Extreme Post-it note will do. The Extreme Post-it note doesn't really offer a whole lot more, especially considering that both of them, the regular and the Extreme, both stuck in the exact same conditions. And the one condition, which was the wood deck that they didn't stick in, neither one of them would stick in it. It wasn't like the regular one blew away and then the Extreme one didn't blow away, because they both blew away. So I have a hard time recommending a Extreme Post-it note over a regular Post-it note, unless, like I said, you're in a windy condition. Or the one thing that I did notice is that whenever I peeled them off from outside, the regular Post-it note, pretty much once you peel it off, it's done. You can't really stick it to anything else. But the Extreme ones, you can peel them off and then you can stick them 4 or 5 more times, and they'll still have enough stick left that they're not just going to fall off. So that is one advantage. But for almost double the price, I don't think that they're quite worth it, although they are durable and they are pretty much what they say they are. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If there's anything else that you want me to test, leave a comment down below, and I will see you in the next one.